Well, you guys got another video on how to set up a cheap Homelab Linux server with CasaOS as well. And we've got our 2TB drive to put inside here. And we've also got a mini PC, which we're going to use, which is the U59. These are pretty cheap. You can pick these up for around about 130 to 150 pounds, depending where you pick them up. And yeah, they're pretty cheap to use. And these are great for people that want to set up maybe a Plex server, or maybe set up a Home Assistant or something like that. Or maybe you want to do some sharing of files across your local network. You can do with something like this. You've got two Ethernet ports on the back here. We've got some room for a SSD in here. You can put a 4TB one in here if you want to. We're just going to be sticking in a 2TB SSD drive in here for our data and storage. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to set up any sort of RAID on this for this setup we're doing today. But you will need to make sure you back up everything on your SSD if you're going to be storing data on here. So we do have one stick of RAM in here. It'd be ideal if we had two, but we're going to be sticking to this super budget setup with just one stick of RAM in here. And we're also going to be slotting in our 2TB SSD drive in here. Now you can pick these up pretty cheap nowadays. Again, you can use a 4TB in here as well if you can pick those up. Try one of those in here and that will give you a bit of extra storage. You can also use external storage plugged into this device if you wanted to as well. So let's go ahead and now download the operating system. We're going to be using Xubuntu here, and we're going to be using the minimal setup here. Now you can use the Ubuntu server depending on what you want to do, but that's quite heavy for this little mini PC. So we're going to try and use the lighter version, and we're going to go for the released page here. Click on this one right here on the Xubuntu, and it will take you down here, and you can choose the language for your direct download. So I'm going to go ahead and choose United Kingdom because that's where I'm based, and we're going to click on this one right here, and this will give you all of the download links for the ISO files that you can use. So as I've said before, you can either download the full version here, but I'm going to go for the minimal version. This means it's going to have nothing installed on here apart from the operating system, and that's exactly what we want for our server that we're going to be setting up here. Super lightweight for our system, and this system that we're setting up here doesn't use a lot of watts either, and that's going to be ideal for us. So let's go ahead and get Berliner Etcher, and we can download this one here, and this will be able to create our USB flash drive. You can use a small USB flash drive. I've got a 32GB USB flash drive here that I'll be using for my particular install. So let's go ahead and download the software and get it installed. I've already got mine installed on the computer. I do have my USB flash drive into the PC, so I can create this. I need to format this because it's been used before. So I'm going to quickly do this right here. Berliner Etcher will do this for you, but I'm just going to quickly prep it here and give it a name more recognizable so you can see. I'll call this Ubuntu. You can call it Xubuntu if you like, but I'm just going to call it Ubuntu. And we can then click Start, and we can quickly format this drive and get it ready. And this way you'll understand what I'm doing here. So we've now got that done, and that's plugged into my just a Windows computer. We're going to open up our Berliner Etcher here and choose our file. So this is the file we just downloaded, the minimal version right here. And we'll select this one and click OK. And now we need to select a target. So we need to select our USB flash drive. So I'm going to check mark this one right here. And as you can see, it's a 32 gig drive. And now we can click on flash, and it will prepare our drive for us, ready for the installation process on our mini PC. So I'm going to let that go. And once that's done, we should see flashing, and then you will see validating or verifying that drive after it's completed the flashing process. And there you go. It's now done. And we can now remove this. You can see it's flash completed, and it's successfully done. So now we can close this off and move on to the next bit. So let's go ahead. This is the mini PC here, all prepped, all done. So I'm just going to plug in the Ethernet cable here, the HDMI cable to the screen that we're using. We're also going to need a keyboard and mouse, and we're going to need a USB flash drive, which we just created here, which I'm plugging in here. Now, once this has been installed on this server, once we got it all ready, we don't need to have the keyboard and mouse plugged in, and you can just have the Ethernet plugged in the back. You don't even have to have a display on this once you get it all set up, because it will sit in the corner somewhere near your router and you won't need to worry about it. So let's get it all prepped and get it ready so we can use this in our network. So the first thing we need to do is boot into the BIOS. And I've got a capture card on here to capture the screen so you can see. But basically we need to power this on and then boot into the BIOS of the mini PC here to change the boot order to boot to our USB flash drive. It's either F2 or the delete key for this particular mini PC. And once you're in here, you can go to boot and you can change the first boot option to your USB device. And this is going to be our flash drive. And we can change this back afterwards because obviously we don't want it booting to that device all the time. So I'll do that a little bit later on. So we are booting now to our USB flash drive as our first boot device. Now we can save changes and exit out. And this should allow us to boot to that device. Now you should see something looking like this. Try or install Xubuntu. So we're going to go ahead and click on this one right here. And this will then start loading up. And you should see a screen populate here with Xubuntu, and we haven't got it installed just yet. We need to go up to the top left hand side here where it says install Xubuntu right here. So click on this one right here, and then another little box will pop up, and we can then go ahead and go through the installation process right here. So this is what you should see, something like this. And all you need to do, there's nothing to be too worried about here because it is straightforward. Choose your language, and then we can click on next. And then this will take us to the next bit where we can choose our keyboard layout. So I'm going to do English United Kingdom, click next. And we're going to use a wired connection here, Ethernet. So I'm going to leave that as is. And now you can see there's an update available for the installer. So I'm going to quickly update this now. And then we have to just quickly restart by clicking on install Ubuntu again. So let's go ahead and do that. Close the installer again because it needs to restart because we've just updated it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Close Installer. And now we're going to go ahead and click on the Install Xubuntu again like we did at the beginning. So let's go ahead and start that off and start the installation process. So you should see that box popping up one more time here. And now we can go ahead and quickly choose our language. Again, English. Click Next. English UK. And click Next. And Wired Connection. And now we can choose interactive installation. If you've never installed this before, leave it on that one. That's fine. And this will help you install this operating system. Very simple and easy. Xubuntu minimal. That's exactly what we got here. And now we can install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi if you want to, and hardware. And you've also got download and install support for additional media formats. That's what you can do if you check mark both of these. I'm going to check mark both of them because I want to make sure that we're got all of the right features available to us. And now we can erase the disk and install Xubuntu on our system. Now it wants us to choose our operating system. Now there is an NVMe drive in here and it's selected the wrong drive. So I'm going to quickly change this to our NVMe drive. Once you're happy and you've selected the right drive, click on next. And once this is done, we can move on to the next bit by creating our account. So you can call yours whatever you like. I'm just going to call mine admin, and we'll go ahead and do that right here. And it doesn't like that, so I'm going to call this admin 101, something like that. So let's go ahead and do that right here, and we can change that. So let's go ahead and click on here and just put 101 here, and it should approve that one. There we go. So now that's done, all we need to do here now is put in our password that we want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and put a password in here, and it will ask us to confirm that password. So let's go ahead and quickly confirm it by doing the same password again. And once that's done, and you can leave this as require me to sign in with my password, that's fine. And then we can click on next. So just remember those details because you'll need them later on when we're creating our CasaOS. On here, choose your location. I'm in London here, so that's fine. And now we can click on install, and that should be now installing. Now it might take a bit of time, so be patient and let it do its thing. And you may see some code coming up on the screen. That's pretty normal. If you see that, don't worry about it. So we're just letting that happen right here. And once this is done, we can move on to the next stage. Okay, so that's now completed, and all we need to do now is restart the system. Now we need to make sure that when we restart the system that we remove our USB flash drive because it will start booting to that drive again because we changed the boot order, and we need to change the boot order back to our NVMe drive, which is where we've installed our Xubuntu onto. So let's go boot back into our BIOS here, and what we're going to do is quickly change from our USB device to our hard disk right here, and we can now click on save and exit, and now it will boot straight to our freshly installed Xubuntu on that drive. So let's save these settings, and you should now see something looking like this on the screen. There we go. Xubuntu is now booting up for the very first time, and once this gets to the next stage, it's going to ask us to put in our password. So there we go. Now we need to put in our password that we created for this account. It's a little bit small there, I'm sorry about that, but that's just the size of the screen I'm using here. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my password that we created earlier. Click OK. And there we go. We've got a very minimal install of Xubuntu on this mini PC. There's nothing on here that is going to be useful to you apart from the terminal. There's no actual browser or anything like that. You can install a browser if you want to. You can see there's no browser on here. So we don't need to use a browser. We can use the terminal to finish this off because I want to keep this as minimal as possible on this mini PC. But you're happy to go ahead and install whatever you like. If you don't want to use a minimal version of this, you can use the more desktop version with all the apps on it. But we're going to open up our terminal here. And from here, we're going to need to install CasaOS. So let's go ahead and type in this command right here, because we need to make sure that we got this available to us so we can pull in CasaOS from the link that they have on their website. So we can use that command now we've installed that, and let's go ahead and target it to that address there. This is on their website, CasaOS's website, and just type out the command you see on the screen and push enter, and then this will start to pull CasaOS down from their servers and start to install it. So there you go. It's now going ahead and install CasaOS on this system for us. So CasaOS is going to be great for us if we want to install a bunch of different stuff on this particular build, and it's going to make it easier for you if you're not familiar with this particular sort of stuff. You won't have to keep doing what you're seeing on the screen once you've got it set up. So if that is frightening to you, then don't, because it is quite straightforward and easy to do on this system once you get it done. So you need to use a couple of little commands here to get it prepared, and then you're done with the command side of things. So let's go ahead and let that finish off. It's going to need to download all of the dependencies here for this particular build. You can see it's telling us the current Docker version here, and it will go off and start downloading all of the stuff it needs for CasaOS. So we're just going to let that do its thing, and it will take a bit of time. So it's important that you are on the internet at this stage, otherwise you're not going to be able to do any of this stuff. And once this is done, we can set up SSH so we can use the actual terminal inside CasaOS to connect to our server. So let's go ahead and let that finish off. And this should tell us our IP address once this is done. And it hasn't got long left now to install. It doesn't take too long to set all this up. And there we go. There is our IP address right here. And what we're going to do is, let me expand this page here. Should have probably done that in the beginning. But there we have our IP, and now we can connect to that via our PC, our Windows PC, if we want to connect to our server via there by using our IP address and get access to our CasaOS panel. So let's go ahead, but before we do that, what we're going to need to do is set up SSH on here so we can use the terminal from CasaOS. And to do that, you need to get this quickly prepped here by typing in a couple of these commands here. So let me go ahead and put those up on the screen for you. And once you've typed those out, push enter. It's going to say, do you want to continue? I'm going to say Wi-Fi yes. And once this is done, you're going to be able to access your server from CasaOS via the terminal here. So let me go ahead and do this next command here. So we need to set this up here and enable SSH. And you can do that by putting this command in here. And we can push enable SSH and push enter. And once that's done, we need to do another command here, and this will allow the SSH to work properly. So let's go ahead and put this command in that you see on the screen right here. And that's it. We're all set up and we don't need to worry about the terminal anymore. So we can close that off for now. And we can now head over to our other computer, our Windows system, go up to our browser, type in the IP address that CasaOS gave us earlier, and type that in on the top of the browser here, push enter. And this should then load up and say continue to site. And there we are. We have CasaOS. It says welcome to CasaOS. All we need to do now is click on go and create your account for CasaOS right here. Now I'm going to use the same details that I use for my server. So I'm going to just call this admin 101. And we're going to put the password in. I'm going to use the same password for this. And you can type that out. And this just makes it a lot easier, so you don't end up with a load of different passwords and usernames. And click on create here. And this will now take us to our CasaOS dashboard. So we don't need to show newsfeed from CasaOS blog. So I can cancel that right here. And we can close that off there. And there is our dashboard. So it's a really nice, clean looking dashboard. And your server will be sitting somewhere in the corner near your router or wherever you want to put it. It doesn't need a keyboard and mouse. You can run it straight from here, from a PC or laptop, and you can log in here. You can even terminal into it as well from the terminal because we've set all that up as well. You've got all your applications here. You've got Jellyfin, you've got xCloud, you've got Plex, you've got MB, you've got a bunch of different stuff here you can set up. You've got loads of areas here that you can access and install. If you needed to have a backup for your phone, you've got file drop, you've got loads of good stuff on here. So depending whether you wanted to set up your own personal cloud for your own phone, where you can have all your photos and share them with your family across the network, you can do, and you can set it all up from here. So what I'll quickly do here is I'll quickly show you how to organize your storage, because you're obviously going to need to do that. Now, you're limited to what sort of storage you're going to have here because it's a mini PC and we've only got a little tiny drive in here. So bear that in mind. But you've got your little settings pane up here. You can turn on and turn off what you don't need. Okay, so let's get your actual storage set. So let's go to the cog here near it says storage. And here we have our storage. So we've got our system and our drive in here, which is our 2 terabyte SSD. Now, you're not going to set up any complicated RAID system or anything like that because we don't have that set up here. We only have one drive for storage. So it's important that if you are going to keep stuff on here that is mission critical stuff, you are going to need to make sure that is backed up because you don't have any sort of redundancy. So what we're going to do here is click on the storage here area here. It says storage 1 and that's fine. And we're going to need to select our storage, which is this drive here. And we can now format and create storage pool on this system. So let it do its thing. And you can see it's create in progress. And we'll just let that do its thing here. And then once that's done, that drive is now ready to be used. And it does take a bit of time. And there we have all of our storage done. Now, if you've got external storage plugged in, that'll also show up here as well. So we only have this area here. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to close this off and we're going to install an application. And I'll show you how you can use that storage pool here for all of your data rather than using your main drive, which is your operating system drive, because you don't want to be putting stuff on there. You want to make sure you're using your storage 1 drive. So that's how we can set that up. So let's go ahead and put in our application that we can use here. I'm just going to use Plex here because I think that's something that people will use, but you can do whatever you like. So these are your default folders, which is for your operating system. We're not going to be storing data on there because that's for our server OS. So what we're going to do is create a new folder inside our storage 1, which is our main 2 terabyte SSD. So we'll call this one media and we're going to put the check mark in shared, and you can now see that is shared across our network. Next, we can create another folder. You can call these whatever you like, depending on what you want to name yours. So just give them names of something that you want to use. I'm going to call this one, say, photos. We can do a documents one in a second. And you might want to share your photos. So I'm going to do shared here and click create. And that's now done. And now we can create another folder here. And again, you can call this whatever you like here. So I'm going to call this downloads. Now, I'm not going to be sharing the downloads because that's stuff that I'm going to be downloading into that area here. And that is fine. And we can now create another folder, and you can call this again whatever you like for your data. You don't have to have them exactly like this. You can have them how you like and what sort of data you want to store on your particular server. So let's do one more here, and we'll call this, say for instance, movies, and we'll share this one as well and click submit. And that's now done. So we've got enough folders here now, and they're all created. So what we need to do next is we're going to install an application, and you can choose whatever you like. Now, remember, this is your default area. This is your operating system, which we're using here, which is our Xubuntu here. We don't want to be storing data here. And by default, the data might be going into that location instead of our storage one location. So when you install applications like Jellyfin or Plex or any other application that is going to be storing data, you need to make sure it's storing data to your 2 terabyte storage or whatever storage you've got instead of your server. So let's go ahead and set that up, and I'll quickly show you how that works so you can understand, because that can be quite confusing. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to change the path here to these, so we've got all our data going here. To do that, I'll quickly install Plex for you and show you how that works, so we know that our data is going to be stored in our new storage one area. So let's go ahead and go to our files here, and let me just quickly show you this terminal here so you can see this works as well, just in case you was wondering whether this does work. Put in your details that you've got here for your server, and you can see straight away you've got up your terminal, and you can now install stuff and do stuff in the terminal as well if you need to. You have terminal access on CasaOS as well, which is quite useful. So we're going to go ahead and go to the apps and install Plex. So let's go ahead and do that right here so you can see. So let's go to the App Store and click on App Store. And this will give us access to this area right here. So all we need to do right here is choose whatever you want to install. We're going to go ahead and install Plex because that's pretty common and popular for people who like to have that on their system. So let's go ahead and find Plex. There it is. Click on Install. And now it's going to say Start. Click Next. And there you go. It's going to start the installation. And that is now going to go ahead and install. Hit the 3 dots and go to Settings. Now, if we look at a path where it's storing all of our media, it's on our operating system. We don't want that. So click on this little icon next to where it says /data/media. And we need to click on that little tiny target thing there and then change it to the arrow, up arrow. And then what we need to do here is come down to where it says MNT. Click on this one right here and you double click it. And now you should see storage one. And now we're going to click on this one here and now choose where you want to store your media. So for instance, I'm going to just choose this media section right here, and we'll choose media and click save. And now that's done. And you've now changed the path to your actual storage one. So it's not going to be installing all of your media onto your main operating system. You'll see the installation will configure that for you. And it's now done. And all you need to do now is open Plex and set it up exactly how you would normally set up Plex, which is straightforward and easy to do. I'm not going to go through that part because that will bore you to tears. All you need to do here is create an account and then create your media selections that you want to use. I've made videos on that before. You can check some of that out on my channel, or there's plenty of YouTube channels that have shown that also. And that's now done. You're ready to go. You've got Plex installed and you're ready to go. And you can now put in your media. Let me just quickly show you how you can access your server from a Windows-based system, which is what we're on here. And this is our dashboard that we're logging into. And you can choose whatever you like to install on your server. So I'm only going to just show you one thing here, but there's a ton of stuff you can have a play around with and get used to it. It's quite useful. There's some really good stuff on here. Anyway, let's go ahead and set up a map drive for this area here. So this is our Windows-based system. So what we're going to do is create a new network path. And I'm going to go here and click on this one here, custom, click next. Now you need to type in // and the IP address of your server here. So let's go ahead and put that in here. 192.168.1.124 and then backslash and the actual path that you want to have as a map drive. So I'm going to call this, say for instance, documents, and we'll click backslash documents and click next. And you should see it right here. It says Ubuntu here, click next. And now we can click finish and it will open that location up right here. And now you can just drop files in there and it will go straight onto your server. It's that simple. Really easy to do. But if you want to see the actual map network drive on your this PC area, let me just quickly show you that as well so you can see it. So if you look over here on the left hand side, you'll now see that IP address has been added and it can now show you all of the paths for the folders that we've created here because I put shared in them. So all I need to do here now is you can map a drive here and then click on a letter that you want to use. For instance, use one that you're not going to be using all the time. So one of these top ones will be fine. And then click finish and this will add it onto your actual this PC. And I've got two here for some reason. Let me just remove this one right here and we'll keep that one. So let me just quickly remove that. So right click and we can now delete. And we can keep this one right here. There we go. And now we've got access to it. And you could drop your documents in, any sort of documents that you want to share across the network. You can do it that way. Very simple and easy to do, and a very cheap and affordable way to set up your Homelab on your home network. Now, it's important to mention that you have no redundancy. You have no backup of this data. So if your drive fails, you will lose your data. So it's important that you set up something that is going to have a backup of that data. Otherwise, you end up running the risk of losing that data. That is the downfall side of using something like this. And you can set up something a little bit more complex with a little bit more money, but that's another video for another day. Anyway, my name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Hope this video has been some sort of use to you. If it has, then give it a like and also let me know in the comment section below whether you like this type of content, and I'll do my best to make content like this in the future. Anyway, that said, I shall catch you in the next one. Just want to say a quick shout out to all my YouTube members. I appreciate the support and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.